This is your Enhancement Talent review for WWE SmackDown Live, July 30th, 2019. Welcome to the channel. Appreciate you all stopping by to listen to me talk about this SmackDown show, which right away told us that there would be no Shane McMahon. So instantly that made it a better show. That makes it 3 letter grades higher instantly. I mean, granted, he opened the show saying that, so he technically was still there, but only for a brief moment. Yeah, I mean, other than that, there was a big match set up for SummerSlam with Trish Stratus returning to face Charlotte Flair. We'll get into that. Somebody tried to kill Roman Reigns. And you could tell that we didn't have much in the way of a title when you see that. Yes, somebody tried to kill Roman Reigns. How, I'm still not entirely sure. I'm not sure how it worked, but we'll get into that in the last segment on this show because it closed the show. But now we have a Stone Cold-esque who ran over Stone Cold. But now we are trying to decide who attempted murder on Roman Reigns. So, as I mentioned right away, Shane appears in a pre-tape promo segment announcing he won't be on the show tonight. Kevin Owens comes out to the ring and he cuts a promo mocking Shane. Just how are we going to survive? How is this going to be a show without Shane McMahon and all that? And Drew McIntyre comes out and tells Owens that they have a match tonight that was set up by Shane McMahon. Drew assaults Owens with the microphone, hitting it off his head and throwing him around the outside of the ring and over the commentary desk, and then says that match starts now. So we open right away with a Drew McIntyre versus Kevin Owens match. They have a pretty solid opening match, I would say. It comes to a conclusion with Drew getting Owens on the announce table. But whatever he had planned, Owens counters and hits Drew McIntyre with a stunner on the announcer's table, which I guess might make it hurt more. I don't know. That's what they would want you to believe, at least. But the table didn't break either. It was just a stunner on the table. So after that, Owens gets him in the ring. He hits him with the super kick and then a stunner, and gets the pin on Drew McIntyre. It was a good win for Owens. Drew is a doormat, which, it is what it is, but this was a win that Owens could use. He needs to keep stringing wins together for when he kills Shane McMahon, hopefully at SummerSlam. After this, Dolph Ziggler has an interview, and the only reason I haven't noted is because, again, he's name dropping Goldberg. We'll see. We'll see if there's any chance that is ever going to be followed up on. I doubt it at this point. It just seems like pettiness. And maybe Dolph Ziggler will mention Goldberg in every promo for the rest of his life. Maybe that is what will happen. We have Bayley confronting Ember Moon in the locker room before they are set to have a tag match, teaming with each other. And Bayley tells her that she hasn't forgotten last week and advises her not to pull something like that again tonight. And we'll get to that tag match in a second and how god-awful that was. Oh my goodness. Alistair Black had another one of his Dark Room Titantron promos, and my immediate thought was, oh no, they're going to stick him back there for another 2 months, aren't they? Ember and Bayley go up against Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. the act that I'm more tired of than anything. Nikki and Alexa, that is. So this just aggravated me so much. So Ember Moon, 2 weeks ago, Bayley gave her a women's title match at SummerSlam. Just gifted it to her, and at that point, it was just all buddy. And then last week, Ember had a match with Charlotte. And, right away, oh, great. Ember needs a big win to build some credibility going into this championship match. Beating Charlotte could be a great way to do it. But instead, what they do is Bayley's music interrupts early in the match. Charlotte gets distracted. Ember gets the roll-up. And the match didn't go more than 2 minutes. So that was misstep number one. With Ember Moon. And what they did after was good, where Ember and Bayley yucking it up on the outside, but then Ember throws Bayley to the wolf that is Charlotte, and then Ember ends up laying both of them out with an Eclipse. That was good. I liked that. I liked them adding that edge to Ember. Not turning her heel, but just giving her more of an edge, more of a reason, more of a purpose. But then, this week, in this tag match. So, finish comes with Ember Moon having both Bliss and Nikki in position for the Eclipse. And she jumps off, but Nikki Cross pushes Alexa out of the way. So Nikki takes the Eclipse, Bliss evades, and then throws Ember into the post, shoulder first, and then gets her down and hits Twisted Bliss off the top and pins Ember. Yeah, Alexa Bliss, who's on Raw, by the way, not SmackDown, pins Ember Moon just a few weeks before her title match at SummerSlam. And this is the biggest thing that bothers me about it, is that Ember was, before Bayley chose her to be her opponent at SummerSlam, Ember was doing all of nothing. I mean, she had the thing with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, and, I think she ended up winning that, but that was it. Other than that, she's been doing nothing for as long as she's been back from injury. And even before that, before she got injured, she was doing nothing. So Ember has no credibility to the main roster viewing audience. You can look at her stuff in NXT, and she was fantastic. But to the main audience, she has no credibility, no big wins, nothing to make you believe that she could win the SmackDown Women's title. And so now you hot-shot it in there. You put her in the match against Bayley. But the building to that involved technically beating Charlotte, but in a fluky way that didn't help either of them. And now, the next week, you're having Alexa Bliss pin Ember Moon. Why? Why the hell? Whose mind did that make sense in? And it wasn't like Bayley turned her back on Ember during the match, or walked out, or didn't help Ember. It was just a clean loss. And it just really shows what the focus of the direction of this division is. And they protect Alexa Bliss at all costs to a nauseating amount. You look at last night's Raw. Alexa, I assume they probably didn't want her to take a loss to Becky, so they have her fake an ankle injury just so Nikki Cross can take the loss to Becky instead. So they don't want to beat Alexa. And now in this case, they felt the need to have Alexa beat the number one contender for the SmackDown Women's title. Someone that needs big wins right now to give any sort of believability to her beating Bayley for the title. So that just upset me. I mean, it made no sense, completely illogical. Just a terrible, terrible booking decision there. After the match, Bayley comes in the ring and she stares down with Ember and then just immediately hits her with a Bayley to belly. Which that would have been fine if you did that same thing, but you just have Ember and Bayley win. I mean, anything would have been better than that if you would have had it end in a no contest or disqualification or whatever, and then you did that or whatever. But just to get to that angle with Bayley laying out Ember, the part with Ember taking a pin did not need to happen. I mean, you could have even had it. I think it would have been better if you had Ember leave Bayley or Ember lay out Bayley during the match. And then you can have Alexa and Nikki win that way. But having her pinned in this match was a god-awful decision. We have a Sami Zayn interview. He ends up challenging Alistair Black to a match at SummerSlam. So I guess he is going to pick a fight with Alistair Black. And there's not much question who's going to win that match. But at the very least, Alistair Black is not locked in his room for another 6 weeks. So there's at least that. He can get an easy win over Sami Zayn and go on with his business. For the second time, they advertised that Daniel Bryan would be giving this career-altering announcement, I think they called it. And for the second time, this time in a backstage interview segment, Daniel Bryan, holding back tears, walks away and does not give us the announcement again. So after they've already false advertised us once, they false advertised us again. I mean, I don't know what we expected, to be honest. Then we get King's Court. Jerry the King Lawler comes out with Trish Stratus as his guest. A lot different than any interaction with Jerry and Trish in the Attitude Era would have been. Jerry just does a basic interview with Trish. And at one point, he talks about at the Raw reunion how a lot of the guys were saying that, they wish they could just have one last match. And so Jerry asks Trish if she wants to have one more match. And so Trish starts to give her answer. She talks about being a mom and all that, only for Charlotte Flair's music to interrupt, as expected. Charlotte comes out and she challenges Trish to a match at SummerSlam. She makes fun of Trish for being a mom and says that Trish doesn't want to accept because she knows that she can't hang with Charlotte and that her era was, quote, models shaking their assets. That was clever. Trish calls Charlotte a bitch. The old bitch line. It seems like we're good for one a show. Or one a week at least. It used to always be reserved for Roman Reigns, but now they're spreading it out a little bit. They're trying to be more edgy, they say. So, Trish calling Charlotte a bitch is what that is. She ends up accepting Charlotte's challenge and saying that Charlotte should know that to be the woman, you have to beat the woman. This was a good segment. Charlotte's promo, I thought, was a good heel promo. I'm all for heel Charlotte. And really, I'm all for this match. I don't know how most people feel about it because Charlotte gets a lot of hate. But, I mean, since WrestleMania, she hasn't really done anything of note. And she's not in a title match, thankfully. Well, I guess she did. She did actually win the title at Money in the Bank, but then she got cashed in on, so it didn't matter. But anyway, that's not the point. But Yeah, she's not in a title match. She's not being forced into anything. It's a dream match. And I mean, if Trish is going to have a match with anyone, I'd much rather it be Charlotte than Alexa Bliss. Because at least with Charlotte, I figure it'll actually be a good match. I can't say the same for Alexa Bliss versus Trish Stratus. We had a Firefly Funhouse segment. And now I'm wondering if Bray is on SmackDown or is he on Raw? Because we didn't have anything for Bray on Raw yesterday. So, and he's feuding with Balor, who's a SmackDown guy. So, I kind of take it as that he just doesn't have a brand yet because everybody's on every freaking brand right now until they reset things. But nonetheless, Firefly Funhouse comes in. Every time I hear that music, I pop. It doesn't matter. Just, we're really glad that you're our friend. I pop every time. Just because I love this. It focuses on Rambling Rabbit, as he's the only one there. And he says he can't wait for SummerSlam. He's a big fan of a big fan of Balor. But then says that he made a mistake. And he says that Finn doesn't understand what the Funhouse really is. And if you remember before, Rambling Rabbit said something similar to that, and then Bray Wyatt murdered him for the second time. But this time, Rabbit sees Bray coming in, and he bolts away. And Bray just comes in, he laughs, and says, "Let me in." And they do the cutaways with the Fiends, all the edited stuff, the jump cuts and all that they do when they show that off. After this, we get Dolph Ziggler versus Finn Balor. Didn't go very long before Balor goes on offense and the lights start to gradually go out. We hear the screech and the Fiend appears. We see him in the darkness, but then the lights go back out and he disappears. And so off that distraction, Ziggler hits a super kick and wins. I mean, I'm not really totally into Dolph Ziggler beating Finn Balor, but I mean, who the hell cares? It's Finn Balor. He's been flattened out to the point where it doesn't really matter. I mean, and another thing, I just don't understand how if the report is true that they're not going to do the Demon versus the Fiend, I just don't get it. Why Balor wouldn't be the Demon for this match with all the torment that Bray has put him through. And you would think against someone like the Fiends that it would make most sense for Balor to use the Demon. But that's the problem with how WWE has booked this and booked Balor, is that it's not that Balor uses the Demon whenever it makes sense. They only use it when they know that they can give him a win. So, like against Brock Lesnar in a title match, a world title match, we don't see the Demon because we know he's going to lose. So, they don't want to do it. It's the same in this case. They just don't want to do it because the Demon's going to lose. Who cares, man? If Finn loses one match to Bray Wyatt as the Demon, is it really going to make us that much different about him when the Demon shows up again 4 months later, 6 months later, however long before we actually see that character again? It would mean, I would argue it would mean much more for Bray to be able to beat that version of Balor. Because then you're leaving no doubt, you're leaving no outs, there's no excuse, it's just a big win for Bray. So I think that outweighs the negative of Balor losing as the Demon. But that's just me. I mean, I get both ways. You want to keep the aura of the Demon alive, but I just don't care. I just know they're not going to do anything with him, so what's it matter? What's the point of protecting him? Like, if they wanted to protect him because they had these big plans for Balor, that he's going to be a world champion eventually or something like that, then sure. But I know that they're not going to do that. Balor is going to forever, I think, just be a good hand as far as WWE thinks of him. So I don't really see the point in protecting the demon to that point when you know that you're not going to do anything with the guy. We had Mustafa Ali versus Nakamura, or Ali, or whatever that you want to call him. But the match didn't go so long, so it went really fast. And I feel like you can tell that sometimes when a match isn't going to go long, it normally goes much more fast paced. And you could tell that right away when Ali just ran in with the drop kick as soon as the bell rang, and just fast paced. Nakamura would end up trying for a Kinshasa 3 times, but ultimately missing all of them. The last one, it was off of a 450 by Ali that missed, and Nakamura goes in for the Kinshasa. Ali evades and rolls up Nakamura for the win. And this was just there to set up a title match for Ali down the line, I guess. I didn't actually watch the Smackville show, but I know Nakamura beat Ali on that show. So now Ali beats Nakamura, and I'm sure that's going to set up an IC title match at SummerSlam. There was a really good Randy Orton pre-tape interview / promo package sort of thing where, it's one of those things where they show the interview, but as he's talking about certain things, they play video of it. It went all the way back to the 2009 feud between Kofi and Randy that was alluded to last week. Then it went into Randy injuring Ali, and the video of everything. It played, so it was edited so well, and it was just a really cool video package. I won't give it much more than that, but it's worth watching. It was a nice little thing to get you excited for Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston. And so, speaking of Kofi Kingston, AJ Styles, the United States champion, takes on Kofi Kingston, the WWE champion, and the main event, the semi-main event to Roman Reigns announcement. But anytime there's like a champion versus champion match, you always sort of expect there to be a schmoz finish or a DQ or a run-in or whatever. And especially in this case, where both of them are a part of 3-man groups, you could easily see a disqualification coming in that way. So the main thing I will give this SmackDown show a lot of credit for is that it had a clean, decisive winner. And I will applaud them for that. It was a good main event match. They had about 15 minutes, I think, maybe 10 in on-air time. The OC, Gallows and Anderson, get involved, pulling AJ out of the ring while he's being pinned. Things break down with the New Day and the OC on the outside. AJ goes for a phenomenal forearm, but gets caught with a Trouble in Paradise for a clean win for Kofi. This was chaotic because on the camera is showing AJ setting up for the forearm, but on the outside you can kind of see, but it's more like the commentators are just reacting to it, but they can't see it. Or not, they can't see it, but we can't see it. But the New Day were taking out Gallows and Anderson on the outside, but we couldn't see that. And then they cut to it, and then they cut back, and that was while AJ was doing the move, so it was a bit clustered there, but nonetheless, it was a cool spot and a good. I give them a lot of credit because they're keeping Kofi strong, and I have a few. There's a few complaints. Like he lost. I think he got pinned by Joe at one point. He got pinned by Ziggler at one point, leading into that match. He didn't lose to Ziggler. It was in one of those 2 out of 3 falls things where Kofi ended up needing a pin. And then he got pinned a couple weeks ago by Randy, and that's been it since WrestleMania. They've kept Kofi strong, which I give them credit for. And it was just a case where I figured that both guys need to keep their momentum going, so they're probably gonna DQ somebody. But Kingston needs the win more. Styles going against Ricochet. He already just won the title. And I don't think that losing to a top guy like Kingston will hurt him that much. So I'm glad that they just went with a clean finish. And then we get to the main event with about 3 minutes left in the show. And it was advertised that we were going to have Roman Reigns make a SummerSlam challenge. He would challenge his opponent for SummerSlam. And so we go to the backstage interviewer. Roman isn't there yet. He's walking to her. And I believe it's Kayla. I could be wrong. They blend together. But Reigns is walking to Kayla. And he's in the backstage area. And he's walking to her. And then out of nowhere, part of the stage, and then like a bunch of crates and all sorts of other stuff just fall seemingly on Roman. And it reminded me of the I don't know how many remember this, the McMahon's Millions, the $1 million giveaways that Vince McMahon was doing in a desperate plea for TV ratings. And at the end of that, it ended with the angle of like the stage collapsing on Vince. That's what this kind of reminded me of. But in this case, I guess Roman somehow did not get hit by the stage falling down on him. I don't know what even to call the part that fell on him, but nonetheless, he's being checked by EMTs, and Kayla is freaking out in some bad acting, I would call it. But nonetheless, yeah, he's getting checked on by EMTs. He tells them he's fine and walks away. And that is how SmackDown went off the air, leaving you with the cliffhanger of wondering who tried to murder Roman Reigns. Who done it? Who tried to murder Roman Reigns? And the obvious answer, which means probably the likely answer, is Samoa Joe. It'll set up to their SummerSlam match. I mean, that would be boring if you ask me, because for one, I've already seen Samoa Joe versus Roman a couple times, and one of them was one of the worst pay-per-view main events of all time, where people literally in like floods almost were exiting the building during the match. And so I don't need to see that again. I think that they could take this a few more interesting routes. One person I thought of was Buddy Murphy. If they just want to insert Buddy Murphy into a program with the top guy, trying to kill Roman Reigns might help. But then ultimately, who's going to win that. But either way, hopefully it's something more unpredictable, but it's probably just going to be Samoa Joe. But the utter comedy of the actual physics of this closing angle were something else. Because another thing I forgot to mention, as Reigns is walking to Kayla, and these things start to fall on him, there is no less than 996 camera cuts. It cut to above the thing that was falling, and then back, and then on Kayla, and then the camera gets dropped, and you see the camera on the ground filming towards Roman Reigns. It was just, I mean, that was the intention, so that you couldn't actually see what happened, but it just made, I mean, I was going to say it made it look hokey, but let's be honest. There's no way to shoot that wouldn't look hokey. It's just something randomly falling on a guy out of nowhere. So, somebody attempted murder on not Samoa Joe, the Samoan named Joe, on Roman Reigns. And I guess that is supposed to entice us to continue watching and watch next week. So, we'll see who the mystery assaulter or attempted murderer may be. But that is all we have for this SmackDown Live. I thought it was an okay show. The Trish Stratus and Charlotte segment was really good, I thought. Other than that, I mean, the hokey ending, the Kofi and AJ match, I give a big thumbs up to, so that was really nice. The Ember Moon thing frustrated me to no end, so that canceled anything else because I was just pissed off about that the whole time I was watching it. Daniel Bryan not giving his announcement again. So, some frustrating parts to this SmackDown, but it had a good main event match that had enough time, and it at least had something, like an angle. At least there was something there. I mean, I don't really care for it, and it's probably going to be predictable. But at least it's giving you something that progresses week to week. It's an actual storyline. So I will give them credit for trying. I think they could have done it a different way than the way they did it, with just randomly falling out of the sky things on Roman Reigns. Like, you could have had Roman laid out in the back, and you don't, and then you don't know who attacked him. I mean, you could have done several other things. Could have had someone take out the Usos, and then Reigns finds the Usos laid out, and then that could lead to something. I mean, there's more ways to do it than the way they decided to, is what I'm saying. But that was SmackDown Live. Thank you for checking out the video. Be sure to do all the YouTube stuff. Subscribe, comments, like, tell your friends, your dogs, and all that. Whatever it is that people normally say on these outros. But until Monday for the Raw review, that is all I have, and I will see you then.